All right, so today I'm going to build a no-code voice agent using Lovable and ElevenLabs. The goal of this agent is to basically help me practice cold calls before I start doing a cold call blitz. Now, I'm a huge fan of Lovable. I've been using it since it came out. It's an awesome way to prototype new applications, and I've never actually used ElevenLabs, so this is my first time actually building a voice agent. So I want to show the entire build process as I go through prompting through Lovable, setting up a ElevenLabs account, getting an API key, and then integrating and bringing it all together. Now, before we get started, quick intro to me. My name is Sanjay Ravichandran. I'm the founder of AccuSales. We're a go-to-market engineering firm helping go-to-market teams adopt AI to really scale their revenue. So if you like that kind of content, I post about AI and how it's impacting sales on this channel, as well as some of the sales fundamentals, so you can generate more revenue and grow your business. All right, let's start building this out. The first thing I always do when I start a new project on Lovable is make sure that I have this set to plan mode instead of build mode. Plan mode allows you to chat with Lovable so that you answer questions, so it knows exactly what application you're trying to build, and it outputs a much higher quality application or project based on answering a few questions. So I always start in plan mode. The second thing I recommend is focus a ton of attention and time on that initial prompt that you give to Lovable. That'll make sure your project starts off on the right foot. So a couple things that I do is I go find websites I like, designs I like, colors, and I take screenshots of those and feed them to the search bar. The second thing that I do, which I think is even more important, is actually go to another AI agent, so like ChatGPT or Claude, and meta prompt to generate a much higher quality prompt that I then go back to Lovable and feed into it. So Fable 5 just came out today, so I guess let's try it out, kill two birds with one stone. So I've given it a couple documents that are instructions or information about my business, and then I gave it the role of being an expert prompt generator and to create a prompt that I can give to Lovable to create a cold call simulator, and then Lovable will be the app creator, and then we're going to use ElevenLabs to generate the voices, and then I provided 8 markdown files for context. So I'm going to let this run, and then we'll see what prompt Claude gives me that I can feed back to Lovable. All right, so Claude generated a much more robust prompt than I probably could have come up with. So here's the prompt. It says copy everything below this line into Lovable. It gives a task on exactly what I'm expecting, the core concepts, focus on pipeline generation for AccuSales as ICP, go down through the buyer personas. It talks about the prospect's AI behavior. And I think at the very end, it also talks about how the pages should get laid out and then the design directions as well. This is fine. I think this is a good starting point for us to load this into Lovable to get started. So the first thing I'll do is copy this, take it back here, and then paste it in here. And I'll get rid of this piece. So this is all gone. Now, the second thing I'm going to do is I generated a while ago a cold call script generator using Lovable. I was trying to experiment with how to use Perplexity to be able to do live searches and then feed that information to generate cold call scripts. I do like the style of this website, so what I'll do is I will take pictures or screenshots of this so that I can also feed it back into Lovable as a screenshot, so it knows a little bit around like the design that I'm expecting. So I'm gonna give it this kind of as a design document, and then at the very bottom here, I'm gonna go and talk about white aesthetic. I have attached a screenshot of a UI that I like. Replicate that UI. Something like that is a good way to start. So I'm going to kick off this prompt, and Lovable should ask me a few questions around how I exactly want this app to be created. So when you start out in plan mode, it starts asking you questions, so it clarifies exactly what you're looking for. So I'm going to say, let's start with dark mode first, actually, so maybe a little bit different than the screenshot. Wait, I think I skipped a no auth, server side. Yes, for now, and then core loop. Let's just do the for call loop first and then set this. So now it's gonna go review my answers and then generate a plan document that I'll review and approve. All right, so here's the plan document. So I just wanted to implement the core loop, so just phase 1. I don't want it to have this full multi-module application from the get-go. So let's see what's shipping in phase 1. So new call screen, so picking between personas, different levels of difficulty, a live call screen. Okay, that's just more of a aesthetic feature. Scorecard is important, and then a history list. Okay, these are all super important. Design is fine, we can keep working with it. And then it's gonna include the ElevenLabs conversational path. Okay, this looks good, so I'm gonna approve it and see what it generates. All right, so Lovable asked me for my API key for ElevenLabs as well as my agent ID. So in ElevenLabs, I actually created a sales roleplay agent and I gave it a system prompt. I workshopped this system prompt on the side using Claude so that it's not a helpful assistant like a lot of AI agents are, but this is supposed to be a little more abrasive, play a VP of sales, a CEO that is, walking into an important meeting, and I'm interrupting them to try to book a call to learn about my services and how they could potentially partner with us. So this system prompt took some time to create. I also gave it access to a knowledge base just so it understands exactly what are the pain points for each of the different roles that it's going to play. And if you need to actually generate an API key, you come here to developers, go to API keys, and then this is the API key that I just generated. And then if you need to go to to get the agent ID, you can go back to the agent. And then the way that I do it is I actually, I copy the agent JSON config, and at the top of the config file is the agent ID right above the agent name. And so I copy both of those and then I put them in here. So I'm going to hit submit to Lovable, and it's going to go through this for adding the secrets and then starting to build this application. All right, so my phone died on me last night, so I have to start recording the following day's morning. I have not touched this application since we implemented the agent ID from ElevenLabs and the API key. So this is the first iteration of the app that Lovable spits out. It looks like there's some errors. Let's see if we can hit try to fix. I usually start there if there's any issues that come up with the apps that Lovable creates. I usually hit the try to fix. It's usually pretty good. I mean, it's using the similar models if you're Vibecoding. All right, so Lovable fixed the issue, and it's saying that the dev server is healthy, so we can actually run one of these preview cold calls. So I'm going to pull this up in the bigger preview window. Remember, this is just phase one of the app where we can pick specific personas, and then there should be able to generate a target brief. So this is like a pre-call planner on why we're calling a specific person. So let's actually try this out. Let's do friendly and then generate target brief and see what it generates. So, okay, cool. It is taking into account some of the context that we initially provided it. So it gave a trigger statement. And then the interesting part is, so AccuSales sells a lot to developers tool startups, open source startups. And so we actually call out the fact that this company's community is growing through the GitHub stars being over 8,000. And then pulls out the co-founder's LinkedIn post. So this is all generated through AI, and Lovable has like a native AI integration. So if we actually come in here, we can see that it's actually made a couple calls to a Gemini agent, a Gemini LLM, to be able to do this text generation for this pre-call planner. So let's actually start the call and see if the ElevenLabs integration works, because I think that's the part that I'm most, intrigued by, if it'll actually work. So it's actually, okay, so it didn't work at all. So let's go back to home and then go back to Lovable. So I think there is a native connector that I haven't tried yet. That's actually how I found out about this ElevenLabs piece, is through this. So let's actually see if we can set up the connection here. I'll do SDR sales bot. Okay, cool. I think I probably need to generate a new API key. So yeah, I won't be able to, I'll just generate a new one. Put it in here and then hit connect. Okay, cool. So now ElevenLabs is connected through the, official connector. Well, let's try this. So I'm gonna let this review this prompt and then come back to me with a plan document on how to fix this. Okay, so here is the plan that Lovable created as a way to mitigate this issue where I hit start call and nothing happens. So it gave me a couple things to do and then a few things that it's gonna do at the code level. So I'm gonna do my part before I approve this plan. So it says open the agent behind, okay. Go to security overrides. Where is this? Security. And then let's see, overrides, and then I need to enable prompt first message and then text to speech voice ID. Okay. First message, text only. I don't see anything else here. Let's see, prompt first message and then text to speech voice ID. I feel like Lovable might be using outdated documents, so I'm gonna just enable system prompt voice and maybe knowledge base as well, because it needs access tools. So let's see. So it needs to be able to override the first message. It needs to be able to override the system prompt because that's the different personas that we needed to. It needs to be able to enable voice. I'm going to give it access to all the voices just because I think that'll be important. And then the knowledge base as well. So I think those are the main, what is this? The language, okay, that's fine. LLM, okay, no, I think this is fine. I think these are the things that Lovable should be able to override at runtime. So I'm gonna hit publish. Okay, so we just updated the settings on the ElevenLabs side. So this should be good because essentially what we've done is we've given Lovable the ability to override basically the first message, the prompt, and essentially the personality of this agent at the runtime whenever we call the ElevenLabs API. So, and then these are the actual steps that it's going to take. So I'm going to hit approve here, and then I'm going to let Lovable focus on executing this plan and see if we can fix this problem. All right, so Lovable is done with its code changes. We already did this part where we did the overrides in ElevenLabs. So now it's time for us to reload the preview. I'm going to exit out of this, and then I'm going to reload this. Okay, and then let's actually regenerate a target brief and see if we can actually run a cold call. So this is a CRO of a Series A company, recently posted on LinkedIn. Let's do realistic. Let's see if this actually generates. Okay, this still is having an issue, so let's go back here and see if anything fails. Read the ElevenLabs error message. Now shows on screen of the retry button instead of something went wrong. Oh shoot, let me regenerate that then. Something went wrong, try refreshing or head back home. Okay, that is, oh, gotcha. We probably need to actually have a host here and ensure the allow list for this URL. Okay, so let me pull this back. So we've only got a .lovable.app. So what we need to do is actually go and ensure that we allow this URL to be able to actually connect to the agent. So send this and say that it's still not working, and I need to set up the Lovable URL to be part of this, this application so the agent can actually connect to this app. Part of this, I probably need to actually publish this application. So come here to publish. So we just published the app using Lovable. Here's the URL for the live application. I took the host of this and posted it here in the allow list. So now we should be good. Let's try to see if this fixes our issue with being able to actually connect the agent to the app. So I'm gonna go out of this, I'm gonna refresh and then go back to the main. I'm gonna hit this research. Okay, still didn't load, so let's see what the issue is now. So, all right, so I've been going through the ElevenLabs documentation to figure out if there's an easier way to do this. You can actually copy a prompt to deploy this agent with the agent ID into your Lovable app. So I basically just did that to see if this would work, because after I did the allow list, it still didn't work. So I'm gonna see if the prompt that ElevenLabs generated for Lovable specifically will help figure out what's happening on the back end. All right, so it's up to date now. Let's go to the main website and let me refresh this, and then let's rerun it and see if ElevenLabs and our AI roleplay agent actually works now. So let's see if this starts. Okay, still doesn't start. All right, time to go back to the drawing board and figure out what's up. All right, let's keep working through this. So I just went and took 2 screenshots of the allow list and then the overrides that I have in ElevenLabs. And then I basically pasted it into Lovable and asked like, hey, I'm still getting the same error as before. How do we embed this voice agent into this application so the persona and difficulty gets sent to ElevenLabs at runtime? I have a screenshot of the overrides in ElevenLabs and one of the allow list. So let's see if Lovable can help us troubleshoot this so we can figure out how we can actually get our agents to start talking to us. All right, so we're still troubleshooting this application. So I asked Lovable to actually come up with a new plan. And I want to ensure that the system prompt that I have here within the ElevenLabs agent is not the issue. And so according to Lovable, it's not the issue. So it came up with a new plan to remediate this. All right, so Lovable ended up implementing the plan, and I just updated the website so that the live URL takes the changes. So let's come back here and retry this and refresh the page. Well, actually, let me go back to practice. I'll refresh the page, and then let's generate the target brief. And let's see if this time the call actually starts. Okay, could not start call, so use register callback must be used with the conversation provider. Okay, at least a better error message this time around. So we're gonna keep going at it. I'm not super familiar with ElevenLabs, so I assumed that this would probably be a good amount of back and forth. So let's see if we can work with Lovable to continue to troubleshoot this, to get this actually up and running. All right, so I'll spare you all the gory details. I've been going back and forth with Lovable. I've been giving screenshots of the error messages that it's getting, and then having it build a plan and then keep on executing that plan. And then here's one additional error message I got after that. Asked a little bit more about the Lovable integration, and then here I was like, hey, I'm still getting this error message. Can you build a plan to fix this? And so here's the most recent update. I'm gonna hit publish and see, hopefully this is, I've already lost track. It's either 7 or 8 times that we've had to go through this loop. So hopefully this time it'll actually work. So I'm gonna update the live URL, and then let's try this. Okay, now it's updated. Let's try this out in action. So let's go CRO, let's go friendly. I feel like I've had enough of this back and forth. Let's generate a target brief, and let's see if this actually starts the call. Oh, nice.
Go ahead.
Hey Marcus, this is Sanjay from AccuSales. How's it going?
It's going. What can I do for you, Sanjay?
Yeah, I'll be super brief. I know I'm calling you out of the blue here. I saw you're the CRO over at FluxoDB. Been watching you all grow over the last couple quarters. I saw the GitHub community expand. I wanted to reach out because usually at this point we see a lot of organizations wanting to really scale out their outbound motion. Is that something that's a big focus for you over the next couple quarters?
Look, we've just raised a Series A, so there's definitely pressure to scale. But honestly, we've tried agencies before, and it hasn't really worked out. Our buyers are pretty technical, and it's tough to get quality over just volume.
Oh, interesting. What was the challenges with the previous agencies? Was it just a lot of volume, like leads that didn't convert? I'm curious to hear a little more. Hello?
Yeah, it was exactly that. They just didn't understand our space. They treated us like any other SaaS company, and our technical buyers just don't respond to that kind of generic outreach. It was a lot of wasted effort and, frankly, money.
Okay. Yeah, completely understand. We primarily actually work with organizations that are selling to developers, so like data engineers, software engineers, AI engineers. And one of the goals that we have is that we want to ensure that you're leveraging AI in a way where we can speak to that technical buyer so we can more consistently set meetings. I'm curious, have you heard of like NodeSource or Dremio by chance?
Yeah, I'm familiar with NodeSource. If you have a case study or something specific about how you help them, that might be interesting. But again, I'm looking for something that shows real understanding of our technical audience.
Okay. Let's do this then, Marcus. I know I'm calling out of the blue here. We actually have a really great case study with NodeSource. We're actually able to generate them 5 qualified meetings a week for an entire quarter. And so I'm happy to send that over. What might be helpful is maybe we can set up 15 minutes later this week. I'd love to just share a bit more about how we would target your particular ICP, as well as the buyer personas within those accounts. So we can show you exactly the kind of messaging we would run so that you feel confident that we would be able to actually deliver results before you have to, explore agencies like us any further. How does that sound?
Wait, so you're saying you can guarantee 5 qualified meetings a week? That's a pretty bold claim. And what exactly do you mean by qualified? We need actual decision makers, not just tire kickers.
Yeah, no, that's a great call out. I would say we'd want to work with you on what that qualification criteria would look like, primarily because if we're going after like larger enterprise accounts, typically we target like the champion targets as well as the decision maker economic buyer targets. But we want to help nurture those relationships. So it really depends, right? If you're going primarily after mid-market SMB, we can go after decision makers all day, every day. But if you're going after larger enterprise accounts, there's a lot of value in being able to get a director or a manager who would be your target champion for a deal.
Okay, I understand the nuance there. But my main concern is still the quality. We've been burned by agencies sending us meetings with people who aren't even close to our ideal customer profile. How do you ensure the meetings are truly qualified and with the right people?
Yeah, that's a great question. So our qualification framework, and this is something that we'll partner with you on, is really identifying a couple things. First, is there a pain, need, or goal that your solution at FluxoDB is uniquely differentiated to solve for from that customer? So as we qualify these meetings, we want to make sure that there's a pain that they would have to pay you to solve for. That's one big one. The second one is that we're actually talking to either the decision maker or N-1 of that decision maker, so that we're talking to someone that has both power and influence within the company. And the third thing that we would do, and this is where we really want to work on, is understanding what is a compelling event that would make them act in the next couple quarters. If you're going after traditional enterprise accounts, you might have a sales cycle of 6 to 9 months. So if that's the case, then we were targeting finding that why now within that time frame. I'm curious, I know we can dive a bit more into this, but do you have your calendar handy by any chance?
Hold on. Before we jump to my calendar, what's your pricing model for this? And how does that tie into the qualified meeting aspect? I need to understand the financial commitment and how you stand behind these qualifications.
Yeah, no, that's a great call out. I would say how we price is primarily based on a retainer plus performance model. So there's a base retainer every month, and then on top of that, every qualified meeting that we set that you deem as qualified. It's not something that we're arbitrarily qualifying ourselves, if you will. Once you determine that the meeting is qualified, we would charge on a per meeting basis.
Okay, so a retainer plus per meeting. Can you give me a ballpark figure for that? I need to know if this is even in the realm of what we'd consider.
Yeah, 100%. So for organizations your size, we typically see somewhere between a monthly spend of somewhere around $3 to $5K.
$3,000 to $5,000 a month plus a per meeting fee. And what's the per meeting fee?
No, I meant 3 to 5K, including the per meeting fee.
Okay, so $3,000 to $5,000 a month all in. That's a bit more reasonable than I was expecting. And you mentioned a free sales audit earlier. What exactly does that entail?
Yeah, so primarily what we'd like to do during the sales audit is be able to actually look at what your current sales process is, what types of accounts are actually converting at specific rates, and then who within those accounts are actually making these buying decisions. And we take that amount or take that information and we translate that into an outbound strategy. So figuring out what are your tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 accounts, as well as who are coaches, champions, and then economic buyers within those accounts that we would target to break into them.
All right, that sounds like a more structured approach than what we've seen before. And the node source case study you mentioned, that's compelling. How about this? Let's schedule that 15-minute call you suggested. I'd like to see that node source case study and understand more about how you'd specifically target our ICP. What does your availability look like for later this week?
Yeah, how does tomorrow at 9 a.m. sound? And the email that I have is marcus.thorn@fluxodb.com. Is that the right email to send an invite to and the case study?
Yes, that's the correct email. Tomorrow at 9 a.m. works for me. All right, let's do it. Send
Okay.
me the invite. Take
Sounds
care.
good, Marcus. Talk to you tomorrow. Bye. Okay.
This is, go ahead.
Something's starting over here. What's going on? All right. So that surprisingly, I wasn't actually expecting to do a live cold call there, but that surprisingly actually worked. So I think that's the overall kind of gist of how I was expecting this application to work. So I guess 8th or 9th times the charm when it comes to troubleshooting this with Lovable. But that actually means now we have a cold call simulator that actually did a pretty decent job. It had some good objections. Let's actually see. Wait, did it not save because I went back to the preview? Let me see if I can actually pull it up here. Okay, nice. So it actually gave a scorecard on what I did well, pivoted to relevant sector, excellent use of authoritative name. Okay. Fair, it gave me some objection coaching, and then, oh wow, it actually gave the whole transcript. Okay, nice. I'm actually pleasantly surprised. I was not expecting to actually do a live cold call, so that kind of kept me on my feet, or put me on my feet, but nice. I think overall that was actually pretty good. I think there'd be a couple things I would change. I'm curious how the other personas actually work here. But overall, like, this took me, like, if I was to wall clock this project, probably like an hour, maybe an hour and a half end to end to build. All right, I'm gonna stop the overall build process now. I think now it's just more about like fine tuning the personality of the different personas, different objections they can throw my way. But a couple of things that I learned through the process. This is the first time I've ever actually used ElevenLabs. So I think a few things I didn't really understand, like how to embed that like voice agent into a Lovable app. So I probably should have done a better job of actually reading the documentation, maybe watching some tutorials before I started doing this, because it probably would have saved me a bunch of time with just like mass blasting Lovable on, hey, fix this error, like what happened here, can we try it this way? But it's really cool to see an agent like Lovable that's using some of these frontier models to be able to take error messages, screenshots, read documentation, and then come up with fixes. It's really cool to see that you can basically vibe code an AI voice agent that can reason over information about your company and your buyer and build this cold call simulator in about an hour and a half. So, all right guys, that's the video for today. If you found it valuable, follow me here on YouTube. I post about AI and AI engineering as well as sales. I'm really interested in how you can leverage AI to be able to really scale your revenue function and close more deals with way less effort. So if you like that kind of content, follow me here on YouTube. I try to post here weekly. If you do have any questions or video ideas, please put them in the comments below. But outside that, I'll see you guys next week in the next video. See y'all.